My stepmom ordered me to leave my own house. When I refused, she threw a vase at me and screamed that I attacked her. Weeks later, I watched the police escorted her out while my dad was filing for divorce. I, 20 male, still lived with my dad after my mother passed. We had a solid life until he married my stepmom Sloan. Sloan is a single mom. She came with expensive perfume, passive-aggressive compliments, and a habit of finishing my dad's sentences like she'd known him for years. He met her at some fundraiser for local businesses. Dad was donating tools to a trade school or something, and she was coordinating logistics. I don't know what that means, but I'm guessing it involved convincing guys she was a saint. I work at a local garage as a mechanic. Mom passed 7 years ago, and it's been just me and my father grinding away since then. I handled maintenance, he handled bills, and we had a system that worked until Sloan showed up. I didn't hate her at first, but my uncle, he clocked her instantly. Uncle Jeff wasn't the type to mince words. Ex-military, owns his own contracting business and has dealt with enough scammers to spot one from a mile away. First BBQ she ever came to, he cornered me by the smoker and said, "That woman is a damn gold digger." He noticed how she kept eyeing up our property. The house isn't fancy, but it's paid off. 3 bedrooms, detached garage I converted into a workshop, decent backyard and no mortgage. To someone like Sloan, that's prime real estate. But my dad, man, he just wanted someone to fill the gap. He'd been alone for so long, worked like a dog, paid off Grandpa's house and kept the roof over our heads without ever complaining. He brushed off every red flag like he was mowing a lawn. When Sloan came along talking about energy and aligning life goals, I think he just heard a woman taking interest in him. That was all it took. Jeff tried to tell him. I tried to tell him. "She's just helping out," Dad said when she started managing the bills. "She's just organizing," when she rearranged the entire living room and tossed out my mom's old bookshelf. I should mention how fast all this happened. Dad met her in January. By March, she was staying over weekends. By May, she had a key. By August, she was moving in with boxes labeled kitchen essentials. Despite the fact we already had perfectly good kitchenware, she replaced our stuff methodically. A pan here, a set of towels there. Each item of ours that disappeared was another piece of her claiming territory. It got harder to ignore, especially when she started locking certain drawers. When she changed the Netflix profile names, when she made comments about me not cleaning up after myself while I was literally the one fixing the goddamn leaky sink she'd been complaining about, she was strategic about it too. Never went after me when Dad was in earshot. "Oh, I didn't mean it like that," with a perfect, shocked expression if I ever called her out. Within 2 years, she had full access to everything. And the crazy part, she was still sweet as pie to his face. She started rearranging finances too. Dad would mention putting money aside for property taxes, and suddenly Sloan would suggest more liquid investments. She once convinced him to pull $5,000 from his retirement fund for some emergency that mysteriously resolved itself without any paperwork. The money never went back into retirement. I mentioned she's a single mom. Her daughter, 16 female Jade, was a quiet girl. I didn't have a problem with her. She seemed normal enough, bit too into her phone, but not rude. I actually felt kind of bad for her. She moved in and tried to act like it was going to be some new family adventure. Jade wasn't the problem. She mostly kept to herself, did her homework, and seemed genuinely uncomfortable with how her mom operated. We'd catch each other's eyes sometimes when Sloan was being particularly fake, and there'd be this moment of silent understanding. I think Sloan had been running this game for a while, but Sloan, she didn't waste time. "Your room has better light," she said one day, not asking, telling me that Jade would be moving in and I'd be taking the guest room. The guest room that had no vents, a cracked closet door, and a view of the neighbors' trash cans. I brought it up to Dad. He nodded like he heard me, then said, "It's just a room, son. Let's not start drama. Just a room." It was my room, the one I'd had since I was 10, the one with the workbench Dad built me for my robotics projects in high school. I didn't start drama. I just packed up my tools, my gaming rig, and whatever pride I had left, and moved into that glorified storage closet. Uncle Jeff was fuming. "You're letting her push you out of your own home," he said when I told him. We were at his place working on his Chevy. I came over most weekends to escape the tension at home. She's playing the long game, and you know what the prize is, your dad's name on that deed. I wanted to believe it wasn't that deep. That maybe she was just weird, controlling, not malicious. I gave her the benefit of the doubt because I figured, screw it. Maybe things would settle. But that's the thing about people like her. They don't stop once they get a little control. And I was just starting to realize how far she was willing to go. At first, I tried to be civil. I figured if I kept my head down, did my part, and didn't react to the passive-aggressive digs, she'd eventually get bored and move on to someone else. That was my mistake. Thinking she needed a reason. The guest room situation was just the beginning. Jade moved into my room like it was some HGTV makeover special. Sloan even posted before and after pictures on Facebook. She captioned it, "So proud of my girl finally having a space of her own. Letting go of the past is how we make room for the future." The past, by the way, was my room. My walls, my desk, my posters, the same shelves my dad and I built when I was 14, now repainted pastel pink and covered in inspirational quotes from Etsy. I was allowed to keep my mattress, everything else either boxed or misplaced. I came home from work one day and my toolbox was gone. Sloan said she didn't know what happened to it, but maybe check the garage. I found it wedged behind an old dresser rusted from where someone had dumped a potted plant on it. These weren't expensive tools. Tools I'd collected since I was 16. Some were gifts from Dad, others I'd saved up for. The rust damage meant I'd need to replace several of them, which meant another $300. When I confronted Sloan about the damage, she just shrugged and said, "You shouldn't leave valuable things lying around. The garage leaks sometimes." The garage didn't leak. She knew that. She just wanted to see if I'd call her on the lie. The disrespect wasn't even subtle anymore. She'd make dinner and serve everyone but me. She'd walk into the living room when I was watching a show, grab the remote, and change it mid-scene without saying a word. Once I called her out, her response, "I didn't think you'd mind. You're always so quiet." Quiet because I was trying not to snap. Sloan had this way of making it seem like I was the problem. She'd do things like use my coffee mug, then leave it dirty in the sink. When I'd grab it the next morning, she'd comment to Dad about how I never wash dishes. Or she'd move my keys from the hook by the door, then act concerned when I was late for work because I was searching for them. "Maybe if you were more organized," she'd say with fake sympathy. Dad was barely around. The company was expanding and he was flying out every other week. When he was home, Sloan turned on the charm, made him breakfast, kissed him on the cheek, told him how well we were all bonding. He ate it up. I started spending more time at work. At least there I had some control. I knew where my tools were, I knew the rules. No one was moving my stuff or pretending I was crazy. Meanwhile, Uncle Jeff and I kept talking. Every few days we'd meet up at his place. He'd grill burgers, I'd vent, and he'd quietly take notes. He was already suspicious, but the more I told him, the more his wheels turned. "You notice any weird charges on your dad's cards?" he asked one night. "Stuff that doesn't match his habits." I didn't have access to that, but I knew she was managing everything. She had the login, the cards, the passwords. She called the shots. Now my dad, the same guy who used to triple-check every receipt, was suddenly fine letting her handle the details. Jeff just shook his head. "She's setting up a pipeline. Mark my words, she's bleeding him dry." He pulled out his laptop and showed me what he meant. "See, con artists like her work in phases. First, they isolate. That's what she's doing with you. Push away family control access to the mark. Then they consolidate, get their name on accounts, manage money, become essential to daily function. Last step, extract and exit. They drain everything they can, then disappear when it gets too hot." He had it mapped out like a military operation. Made me wonder if he dealt with someone like Sloan before. That's when I started noticing things too. Random packages showing up, clothes with tags that didn't match anything Jade wore. A weird new laptop delivered then gone the next day. Sloan would make vague comments like, "Oh, it's for a friend," or "just helping someone out." She wasn't helping, she was laundering. I started keeping my own notes, times, dates, package descriptions, what came in versus what stayed in the house. I even snapped a few discreet photos when I could. Document everything, Uncle Jeff would tell me. I found a box in the recycling one day. High-end yoga equipment, but Sloan didn't do yoga. At least, not at our house, and there was a receipt inside for almost $600. Dad's card. Jeff was right. She was building a pipeline. Then one weekend, Sloan told me I had to be out of the house by Sunday night. Jade's friend was coming to stay for a week, and we need the space. I asked why Jade's friend couldn't sleep in her room like a normal person. Sloan crossed her arms and said flatly, "This house isn't yours. I don't owe you an explanation. This wasn't her house. This was my grandfather's house passed to my father. The house where I grew up. The house we kept after Mom died despite the hospital bills and debt. The house I helped maintain, repair, and protect." I looked at her like she lost her damn mind. "Are you insane? I live here. I've lived here longer than you and Jade combined. You can't just kick me out." She didn't flinch. "You're a grown man. You should have your own place by now. Maybe this will be good for you. Build some independence." I laughed. Couldn't help it. "You're talking to the guy who pays for his own gas, groceries, and does his own laundry. What exactly am I learning here? how to dodge ceramic bowls. She didn't like that. And that's when things turned physical. She came at me not swinging fists, but it was enough. She grabbed a vase from the entryway table and launched it at me like a grenade. It cracked me right above the eye. Blood ran down my cheek, and she just stood there breathing heavy like she didn't expect to actually hit me. Then her expression changed. Then she screamed, "He attacked me! Get out! Get out or I'm calling the police." It was like she'd rehearsed it, screaming loud enough for the neighbors to hear, already pulling out her phone like she was the victim. I knew right then if the cops showed up, I was done. I'm a 6-foot guy with a busted eyebrow and an angry woman claiming assault. No bruises on her. No one would believe me, and she knew it. So I left. I grabbed what I could. Then I dug behind my mattress for the emergency cash I'd been saving and shoved it in my pocket, slammed the door behind me, and drove. Didn't even think, just drove straight to Uncle Jeff's house with rage boiling under my skin. He opened the door, saw me, and said, "It's time." I slept on Jeff's couch that night. Next morning, he handed me coffee and said, "You done being quiet? Good. Let's ruin this bitch." Jeff lived in a small ranch house across town. 3 bedrooms, 1 for him, 1 set up as an office, 1 spare for when his own son visited from college. His walls were covered in framed blueprints and maps. Ex-military precision everywhere. The man folded his underwear, for Christ's sake. We didn't storm in swinging. This wasn't about chaos. It was about proof receipts, documents, digital footprints, the kind of evidence that doesn't cry in court. And luckily, Jeff had been prepping for this day for months. He pulled out a fat folder and a battered old laptop. "Been backing up your dad's financials," he said, tapping through tabs. "Your old man might be blind, but I'm not. Look at this." For a second, I was confused. "How did you get access to Dad's accounts?" Jeff grinned. "I helped him set them up years ago. Never changed the recovery email. I'm not just keeping an eye on family assets." Technically, what he was doing wasn't exactly kosher, but I wasn't about to argue ethics when Sloan had just tried to cave my skull in with home decor. First thing I saw was a payment to a yoga studio in the next county. Sloan's name, Dad's card, then a few hundred at some health food shop, then consulting fees sent to a dude named Brent via Venmo. All while my dad was supposedly in control of the money. "Who the hell is Brent?" I asked. Jeff pulled up a photo. Brent was a 38-year-old fitness coach with frosted tips, a Bluetooth headset, and the kind of Instagram page that screams "I sell protein powder and cheat on taxes." He ran boot camps, posted shirtless mirror selfies, and tagged Sloan in one of his stories a month ago. She wasn't even being slick. Jeff pointed to a string of numbers on the screen. "See this pattern? Every time your dad travels, there's a cash withdrawal from an ATM near this Brent guy's gym. Then a payment to a hotel that's walking distance from the same place." I looked closer. "How much total so far?" "About $14,000 over 16 months. My stomach dropped. Dad didn't make huge money. He did well enough, but 14 grand was a big hit. Jeff and I started digging hard. We had a clear plan: track the money, follow her movements, and collect undeniable proof. "This isn't just about her cheating," Jeff said, pointing to a series of small withdrawals. 300 here, 400 there, always just under suspicious thresholds. "She's been bleeding your dad dry for months." The transfers were all categorized as personal care or household, but the totals were adding up fast, and they lined up perfectly with her trips across county lines, always to the same zip code where this Brent guy ran his boot camps. "Let's nail down the timeline," Jeff said, spreading a calendar on the coffee table. "And then let's catch her red-handed." 2 days later, we executed the stakeout, parked across the street in Jeff's pickup with his old dash cam mounted to the windshield. Brent came home from his gym at 7:30. Sloan pulled in at 7:42, stayed overnight, left at 6:10 a.m., wearing the same hoodie she told Dad she lost in the wash. Video evidence clear as day. Financial evidence just as damning. Jeff's spreadsheet tracked every dollar moved from Dad's account through Sloan's hands to gym memberships, hotel rooms, and shopping sprees, all disguised as home improvements in Dad's books. Meanwhile, I filed a police report for the assault. I wasn't expecting fireworks, but I wasn't walking away either. I had a clean cut above my eye, a photo taken 2 hours after it happened, and a medical report from urgent care. More importantly, I had the voice recording, the one from the moment she started yelling that night. I'd hit record the second I saw her winding up, and it caught everything. Her threatening me, calling me a freeloader, saying she was done pretending, and she just needed me out. No fear in her voice, no sign of defense, just pure venom. Jeff smiled when I played it back. That's what we call a nuke. I'd been recording conversations with Sloan for weeks. Nothing illegal in our state since it's one-party consent, just in case something happened. Call it paranoia, but when you grow up watching crime shows with your mom, you learn a few things. We weren't done. The deeper we dug, the worse it got. Sloan had opened a joint account with Brent under an alias funneling money from Dad's business card. She even tried to co-sign a used BMW in Dad's name using a scanned signature from his contractor license. Digital forgery, Jeff said, tapping the evidence from his dealership contact. Amateurs always get greedy. We had everything we needed. Assault, fraud, cheating, financial mismanagement, identity theft attempt. The pieces formed a perfect case against her. All it needed was timing. So we waited. I kept my head down, stayed at Jeff's, and worked my shifts at the garage like nothing happened. Sloan thought I'd vanished, or maybe that I chickened out, but she had no clue what was coming. 3 days later, the cops knocked on the door and cuffed her right in front of Jade. Charges: misdemeanor assault, domestic battery, and pending financial investigation. Brent must have bolted the second he heard. His socials went private the next day. I didn't show up to the house. I didn't have to. Jade called my dad mid-meltdown while Sloan was in the back of a cruiser. I heard she screamed, begged, even said I set her up. My dad, still 2 states away, left his hotel room and flew home that night. I didn't go to the airport to meet him. I waited for him to come to me. Next morning, he showed up at Jeff's house. Same look in his eyes I hadn't seen since Mom died. Like everything around him just collapsed. He walked in and went straight to me. "You did this?" he asked, voice low and stiff. I hadn't called him because I needed proof, not just accusations. If I had told him over the phone, she would have spun it into another pity party. I waited until we had the kind of evidence that didn't cry or backpedal. I didn't argue. I handed him the flash drive. Jeff gave him the folder. We let him sit at the dining table and watch the last 2 years of his life fall apart on paper and screen. He stared at the hotel receipts, the withdrawals, the Venmo payments to Bitness LLC, the timestamps on the video showing his wife walking into another man's house at night and leaving in the morning, the audio of her threatening me before hurling a vase at my head. He didn't say a word, just sat there. Minutes passed. Finally, he stood up, pushed his chair back, and said I screwed up. And that was enough. The next day, he filed for divorce. Sloan's arrest made local noise. Not the front page or anything, but small-town gossip spreads faster than fire in a dry barn. Word got out quick. Respected businessman's wife arrested at home, followed by a whisper campaign that made her look like a crazy ex before the ink even dried on the paperwork. She was released on bail within 24 hours, but the damage was done. Mrs. Perfect Homemaker now had a mugshot floating around local Facebook groups. Turned out several women in town already had their suspicions about her. One of them, the owner of a boutique downtown, told Dad that Sloan had tried to return clothes she'd clearly worn, high-end stuff purchased on his card, and pitched a fit when denied. "She threatened to call the Better Business Bureau on me," the woman said, over a return policy that's printed on every receipt. I didn't reach out to Jade. She was stuck in the middle, and honestly, I didn't know if she hated me or saw the truth, but I didn't need to. That night she texted me one sentence. I had no idea it was this bad. Turns out Jade had suspected things weren't right, but Sloan had fed her the same lines she fed everyone else. Said I was unstable, that Dad was too generous for his own good, that we needed her to manage the chaos. Classic gaslighting, make everyone think they're crazy for noticing the obvious. Dad moved with lawyer meetings, bank account locks, phone call after phone call. The man was cold surgical, and for once I saw the version of him that didn't need convincing. First thing he did was call his bank and credit card companies, put freezes on everything. Changed all passwords, set up 2-factor authentication on every account. Then he called his company's HR department and had them reissue his direct deposit to a new account, one Sloan didn't know about. The next day, he called a locksmith, had every door rekeyed, and replaced the garage code. He personally drove to the courthouse to file for divorce at fault state evidence submitted. House was inherited, and most importantly, prenup. Turns out years ago, when he was still sharp, Uncle Jeff had convinced Dad to get a prenup just in case. Dad had resisted but eventually caved. The document was airtight. Sloan wasn't entitled to squat. Sloan, on the other hand, went nuclear. After her release, she blew up my phone. New numbers, spoofed emails, Instagram alts, everything from fake apologies to full-on threats. One message would say, "I'm so sorry. Please talk to your father," followed by another 2 hours later. "You're going to regret this, you little snake." I sent everything to Dad's lawyer, every screenshot, every voicemail. My favorite was the one where she claimed I'd always been jealous of her relationship with Dad, as if I was some Norman Bates character trying to keep women away from him. The reality I'd encouraged him to date for years introduced him to my boss's sister, set him up with mom's old friend from book club. I wanted him to be happy. Sloane even tried showing up once, got as far as the driveway before the new camera system flagged her. Dad called the cops. She was warned. Next time it'd be trespassing. Jade moved in with her biological dad not long after. She came by once to pick up her stuff. I helped her load the car. She didn't say much until the end. I think I believed all the lies because it was easier than facing the truth, she said quietly. Thanks for not treating me like her. I nodded. None of this was on you. You were just collateral. She gave me a look like she wanted to say more, but didn't. Then she got in the car and left. Meanwhile, Dad and I slowly started putting the pieces back together. We cleared out the living room first. Everything Sloane bought or touched went into the junk pile. Candles, weird crystals, throw pillows with phrases like live, laugh, love, trash. Jeff came by every weekend, brought food and sarcasm. Guess gold diggers can't dig much when you padlock the vault. He wasn't wrong. Dad was silent most days, processing, going through the stages of whatever you call it, when you realize someone targeted you for your assets. He kept looking at the bank statements, shaking his head at obvious purchases he'd somehow missed. How did I not see the pattern, he asked one night. Because she designed it that way, I said. Small enough to miss, big enough to matter. The lawyer kept us updated. Sloane had hired some ambulance chaser who specialized in empowering divorces, whatever that meant. The guy tried to argue that the prenup was signed under duress, but he didn't have much to work with. Dad had witnesses' documentation and a clear head when he signed it. Sloane's divorce lawyer tried to play hardball, claiming she deserved spousal support and partial ownership of the house. Our side responded with audio evidence of domestic abuse, documented financial fraud, and proof of infidelity with timestamps, photos, and cross-referenced bank withdrawals. Her lawyer folded like a lawn chair. She walked away with nothing but a court order to attend anger management, a pending misdemeanor charge, and a reputation in town that burned faster than a high school rumor. Funny part, Brent ghosted her, completely blocked her on everything. She tried posting vague quotes about self-love and healing on Facebook, but no one bought it. Half her own friends unfriended her. The house felt different without her. Lighter. One night, Dad and I sat outside by the fire pit. I owe you an apology, he said, for not seeing it, for not protecting you when I should have. I didn't say anything for a while. I just poked the fire and watched the embers spark up. Eventually, I said, you fixed it. That's more than most dads would have done. He nodded. She tried to break this family. I smirked. She didn't even put a dent in it. You'd think getting arrested, exposed, dumped by your side guy, and tossed from a house you didn't pay for would humble someone. Not Sloane. If anything, she doubled down. And this time it got dangerous. The week after her court date, she started creating fake social media accounts, sock puppets, some pretending to be distant relatives, others just using stock photos of random women. One aunt messaged me asking if I felt good ruining a woman's life over a little family drama. Another told me I should be ashamed for kicking out a mother trying her best. Subtle. Real subtle. She also left 2 voicemails on Dad's work line. Not crying, not apologizing, threatening. You better fix this or I'll make sure people hear the real story. You and your son have no idea who you're messing with. We forwarded everything to the lawyer. He didn't even blink. Restraining orders in place. Any violation now is automatic jail time. Keep logging everything. But that wasn't the worst of it. One night around 3 a.m., I heard scratching at the front door. At first I thought it was just wind, or maybe a raccoon, until I heard the handle jiggle. I woke up Dad and pulled up the new camera feed. There she was, drunk mascara smeared, mumbling and swaying like she was in a trance. She was trying to pick the lock with a hairpin. When it didn't work, she stormed over to my car in the driveway and keyed the driver's side like a lunatic, screaming that I stole her future. My car wasn't anything special, but I'd kept it pristine. No dents, no scratches. Detailed it myself every month. Now it had a jagged line from headlight to tail light deep enough to hit metal. Police showed up just in time to stop her from smashing the tail light. She was arrested on the spot again. We'd already gotten a temporary no-contact order after the first arrest. This stunt triggered an emergency escalation. The judge fast-tracked the full restraining order the next morning, this time for vandalism, attempted breaking and entering, and violating a no-contact clause. And the look she gave me when they put her in the squad car. I'll never forget it. Pure hatred, like I'd exposed her deepest scam, and now she had nothing left but bile. That was the turning point. Jade, who'd been silent for weeks, finally called me. She asked if she could talk to Dad. We invited her over. She brought screenshots, texts from Sloane, trying to get her to lie to the cops. One of them read, "Just say you saw him key his own car. If we lose this, it's over. You want us both to be homeless?" Jade refused, told her mom she was done. She moved in with her biological dad full-time and blocked Sloan everywhere. I didn't blame her. None of this was her fault, but she made the right choice in the end. That counts. Jade actually showed us her bank statements too. Turns out, Sloan had been borrowing from her daughter's college fund. Money Jade's biological father had been depositing monthly since she was born. Nearly $7,000 gone, all withdrawn in the past year. Jade had no idea until she checked the balance recently and found it mysteriously depleted. She told me the bank had made a mistake and she was handling it. Jade said, her voice hollow. I believed her. That was Sloan's MO. Create a problem, then position herself as the only solution. Financial gaslighting at its finest. Meanwhile, the case against Sloan moved fast. She took a plea deal, misdemeanor assault, mandated therapy, and a restraining order that extended to me, Dad, and our property. She avoided jail barely, but her record was now as wrecked as my side panel used to be before I buffed it clean. The financial fraud investigation was ongoing. Banking crimes are complicated, and the paper trail was extensive. The prosecutor warned us it could take months, but they were confident they had enough to make a solid case. The court mandated Sloan attend anger management classes twice a week. She showed up to the first session signed in, then apparently slipped out the back before it started. The instructor reported her absence, which violated her probation terms. Another strike. Sloan tried a different angle. Then she started telling mutual friends that Dad had been abusive to her, claiming that's why she had to defend herself against me. But her story had holes. No police reports, no hospital visits, no witnesses, just revisionist history from a woman backed into a corner. Dad's friends knew better. They'd seen how he was with Mom. The idea that he'd suddenly become abusive in his 50s didn't track. Plus, we had actual evidence. She had nothing but accusations. Funny how karma gets when you just give it time. 6 months later, you wouldn't even recognize our house. We got back to basics. Dad reinstalled the workshop in the garage. I moved back into my old room, repainted navy blue instead of that pastel nightmare. We even found some of Mom's old stuff Sloan had stored in the attic. Photo albums, Christmas ornaments, her collection of vintage cookbooks. All the things Sloan claimed were lost in the move. The divorce was finalized last week. Sloan tried one last stunt, claimed Dad coerced her into signing the prenup years ago, said it violated her trust. The judge reviewed her own messages bragging to a friend about marrying up and telling Brent she was going to secure the bag soon. He shut that argument down in under 10 minutes. The financial investigation revealed even more than we expected. Sloan had opened 3 separate accounts under variations of her name. She'd been skimming from Dad's business account for over 2 years, small amounts that added up to nearly $22,000. She'd even taken out a store credit card in Dad's name and maxed it out buying designer bags she then sold online. Identity theft charges were added to her growing legal problems. The district attorney was building a solid case with potential for actual jail time if she didn't cooperate with restitution. She walked out of that courtroom with zero alimony, no claim on the house, no stake in Dad's assets, and a permanent restraining order taped to her purse. She moved to another state, according to Jade, somewhere in Nevada, supposedly starting over. Word is she's telling people we were abusive and ruined her life. Let her. That story doesn't work unless she leaves out all the facts, which, knowing her, she probably will. Jade's doing better. She's been in therapy and even made the honor roll last semester. We grab coffee sometimes and talk like actual siblings. Funny considering Sloan tried so hard to keep us from bonding. If anything, all her scheming brought us closer. Uncle Jeff, he's still the MVP. We took him out to a steakhouse the day the divorce was finalized. He wore his "I told you so" shirt, no joke, ordered the most expensive thing on the menu, and said best investment I ever made was not trusting that woman. He'd been right from day one, the entire time Sloan was working. Dad Jeff was working his own counter operation, documenting everything, building the case we'd eventually need. Even when Dad wasn't ready to hear it, Jeff kept collecting evidence, kept the receipts. Dad's a different man now, calmer, sharper, humbled in a way that didn't make him weaker, just more aware. He told me the other day that the biggest mistake of his life wasn't letting Sloan in. It was not listening when the people who loved him spoke up. But now we talk more and we actually know each other again. As for me, I'm heading to college this fall. Got accepted into a solid program, moving into dorm soon. Dad offered to cover rent so I wouldn't have to take loans. Said it was the least he could do. The garage gave me a nice severance. 2 weeks' pay and a decent recommendation. My boss even threw in a new set of wrenches as a going-away gift. Said I was one of the few guys who never half-assed an oil change. She tried to erase me, tried to control Dad, but in the end she lost everything because she thought no one would fight back. Turns out she underestimated the wrong family. Yesterday we finally replaced the front door lock, the last one that still had the emergency replacement from the night Sloan tried breaking in. Dad handed me the new deadbolt still in the package. "You want to do the honors?" he asked. I nodded. "Seems fitting?" As I installed the new lock, setting the pins and testing the mechanism, I thought about how much had changed in a year, how close we'd come to losing everything, how Sloan had nearly succeeded in her plan. The new lock clicked into place.